Welcome to the Blake Talks Good podcast. I'm your host, Blake Jennings, the founder and president of OnRamp, a nonprofit that has donated hundreds of reliable vehicles to people in need to help them on the road to self-sufficiency. The idea behind this podcast is to help you maximize the good that you do in your community, whether you're an individual or part of a church, charity, or other organization. In this episode, I want to try to answer a question that I'm frequently asked by people who run nonprofits or in leadership in churches or even just individuals who want to do good. They are wondering, how do I choose the right people for leadership in my organization? Or how do I become the right kind of person to lead a charity or a church? So this could apply really across the board. Let's say that you're a nonprofit or a charity and you're setting yourself up with the state and you have to choose some people to be your board of directors, or you've grown and it's time to add people to your board of directors, or you're a church looking to invite people into leadership on the elder board or deacon board, or you're just an individual in the community who would like to know, how can I grow and become somebody who could help lead a charitable effort or a church effort to do good in my community? So I want to talk for a little bit about the things that you want to look for in other people or in yourself for those who would be in leadership of a nonprofit or a church. And these things honestly are true across the board. So it'll apply absolutely across the board. I'm going to give you 4 essentials that you want to look for in anybody who would be in leadership of a nonprofit or a church type organization, ministry, really anything. So the first and the most essential is you want to look for people who can write huge checks. No, I'm totally joking. You don't. But I see that mistake made all the time. Sometimes in church world, but frequently in charity and nonprofit world, the idea is let's invite people onto our board of directors or an advisory council who can write huge checks, or they have lots of networks, they own a business, they know the mayor, whatever it is. I see people invited into leadership simply because of the money or connections they can provide. That is a bad idea. Now, if all the other 4 things, the true essentials I share shortly, are true, and the person has lots of resources or lots of connections, well, then that's kind of icing on the cake. Wonderful. But I would not require those things. You want people on your board who don't have those things. And also, I would never choose someone who has those things but doesn't have the 4 essentials. So please, I don't want to hear about another nonprofit that invited a jerk onto their board because he or she could write a huge check. That is disastrous. Please don't do that. So let's get into the actual 4 things that you should always look for in anyone who's going to be in leadership of a nonprofit, a charity, a church, a ministry, any organization. First and foremost, without a doubt, the most important, character. You want men and women of character. And if you aspire to one day lead in a charity or a church setting, you need to be a man or woman of character. Now, it's easy to say, how do you define character? If you're running or part of a faith-based or religious organization, then chances are good that there's probably a statement of character qualities that are part of your religious creed or your values. So those will help frame that for you. But I'm going to walk through some that are true across the board, whether it is a church, a religious organization, or a secular organization, whatever it might be. Here are some always true definers of this nebulous thing we call character. So a man or woman of character, number 1, is someone who is humble, someone who's not arrogant, who's not prideful, someone who is teachable. They're willing to be convinced that they're wrong. They're willing to have their opinion changed. They're not trumpeting themselves. They are genuinely humble. And this one, I can't overstate the importance of this. It is so destructive when you have somebody on your board of directors or deacon board or elder board advisory council, whatever it might be, who believes that they are always right. If they walk into the meeting convinced that their way is the right way and everyone else is wrong, why have the meeting? Like, there's no point. Just fold up. Like, you don't want that kind of person. Some of the ways that you can see that, it obviously can come out in a board meeting. Hopefully you know, though, before you invite them on the board. One of the things that I look for is someone who is not too good to clean the toilets. Someone who is not too important to do the menial things of your ministry. If that's a church, like literally, they will go on a Sunday morning and plunge a toilet that's stuck. If it's a charity, they will go give out food to the poor or help the sick, or when they are with a client. I think this is a big one. When they're with someone your charity serves, they are not like over them, looking down on them. They're not too good for that work. Like, they'll stoop down and they'll care about that person. They'll get their hands dirty. I think you really get a sense of this pretty quick with somebody, especially in nonprofit world dealing with the poor and the vulnerable, the sick and the needy, the disabled. Like if you see a person who is like feels like they're too important and they're standoffish, that work is beneath them. They'll fund it, they'll direct it, but they won't actually do the work on the ground to people in need of your ministry. They're not for your leadership. Do not invite them in. You want people that are so humble that they will jump right in. They will stack chairs. They will clean up messes. They will give support to somebody who is disabled. They will do whatever is needed. They're never too good for the lowliest of jobs. So that's huge. You can also see it in this teachability idea. I think it's really important that you have people on your board who are smart and wise. We'll get to that in a bit. But even if they really think that they have the right answer, if they walk in and they hear this diverse set of views from different board members, they're willing to be led down a different path. They're willing to be convinced, to be persuaded that another view is better. They never assume that their view is best, and they're willing to be persuaded otherwise. That's hugely important. So character, how do we define it? First, you're looking for a person who's truly humble. They're not prideful. They're not arrogant. The second thing that I'll look for under character is this idea of integrity. You live consistently such that your public life and private life match up. You're not different in private or around a few select friends than you are in public. So again, this one can be hard to assess, but you're looking for somebody who, when he or she is alone with a donor or a client or a group of friends or wherever it might be, you can trust them because they're gonna act in a way that is full of character, that is truthful, that is honest, that is moral. So integrity is a big one. You don't want someone on your board who has a reputation of doing things in their private life that are not helpful to your organization, to your church, to your charity. So somebody of integrity. Third, under character, I would look for somebody who is truthful. And this one probably feels obvious, like somebody who's not going to tell a lie. Of course, yes, you want somebody who's not going to tell a lie. But I mean more than that, like somebody who will proactively tell the truth. I mean somebody who they have opinions, they have views, and they're not too afraid to share them. Now, they're going to share them in a kind way. We'll get to that in a moment, but they will share them. They will speak up. You don't want somebody on your board who never speaks like that. That's not useful to you or to them. You want somebody who is courageous to share their views, to share their opinions in a truthful way. So truthful, it goes beyond just not telling lies. It's also willing to tell the truth as you see it. Okay. So that's the third part of character. And then the fourth and final part of character, again, this is just kind of my list. Yours may be a little different, but under character, I look for somebody who is truly gracious and kind to all people. So graciousness, they're kind, they're compassionate, especially when they're speaking truth. They do it in a gracious way. They're not combative. They're not looking for a fight. Again, they're gracious to your clients, not just willing to clean up a mess, but they're nice to the people who made the mess. They're not easily offended. They're just a gracious, kind person. That goes so far. And leadership, whether it's a charity church or ministry, holy cow, just having gracious people in charge is a lot. That means a lot, especially to your staff, let me tell you. So under character, we're looking for people for our leadership, advisory council, board of directors, elder board, deacon board, whatever it might be. We are looking for people of character who are humble, who have integrity, who are truthful, and who are gracious and kind to all people. So that's the first thing you're looking for. Most important essential, character. Second essential thing is wisdom. By wisdom, I mean for leadership, for people who are on your board or advisory council, you're looking for men and women who can think deeply, who can think about complex issues, who can unpack them and really get to the heart of the matter, who are willing to talk about strategy and vision, because ultimately this group of leaders, whether it's leading your charity, your church, or nonprofit, they are in charge with leading the vision of the ministry and protecting the mission of the organization. And so they have to be able to think wisely and deeply. So I look for people of wisdom. And so usually I'm looking for people who have a longer track record of life. Sometimes I want to have younger people on a leadership board so they can grow and they can bring that important perspective of a younger generation. But most of my leaders are going to be a little bit older, so they've had time to really season their wisdom and learn from experience so they can make wise decisions. So wisdom is important because ultimately your board is helping to direct and safeguard your organizations. You want them to be men and women of wisdom. Third, I'm looking for men and women with expertise, proven expertise in some field. What I mean by that, I want people on my board, on your board, in your advisory council, deacon board, elder board, whatever it might be, who bring some expertise that is useful to the organization. This is an important point because I see a lot of, especially in charity and nonprofit world, I see a lot of organizations scale up, they grow, and eventually their board of directors is really just a check writing board. It's just a group of people who brings donors, who brings connections, who brings money. They're not actually involved in the work of the organization. And I personally don't feel like that's very healthy. I think it's much more healthy if the leadership is directly involved in some way. And so where are they going to be involved? Well, line up with their expertise. So in our board, we look for men and women who bring expertise that we need to run this full organization. So on our board, we have somebody who's a lawyer who brings kind of a legal mindset. We have somebody who is a professor of accounting who really understands how money flows. We have somebody who has decades of experience in leadership in the nonprofit sector, so they understand how nonprofits, both small and large, are run. We have somebody with a background and training in social work, especially helping among children. We have somebody who comes from a counseling and pastoral world. So they bring kind of the pastoral side of church work, the counseling side. We have a wide range of people, including we have a couple former clients on our board, and that's hugely important. So people who were blessed by this ministry, by this nonprofit in the past, they have progressed towards self-sufficiency. That's kind of our goal with OnRamp. And they've gotten to a place where they now can come be on the board and lead our efforts. And I think their wisdom is the best bar none because they've experienced the work we're trying to do. They've walked in the shoes of the people we're trying to serve. So they bring so much wisdom to our client care side and to our overall ministry. So I think that if you can find former clients for your board, that's a huge win. That takes you a long way. So you're looking for all these different types of expertise. You might have somebody in marketing and fundraising. You might have somebody who's very familiar in partnerships with the government. You might have somebody with grant writing. Yeah, who knows? All sorts of expertise you might bring. And then you want to get each of those leaders involved using their expertise in some way. That will keep them connected in a vital way to the work of the organization. It'll keep them humble. It'll keep them engaged. It'll keep them active. So I highly recommend finding board members or council members who bring expertise. And the final one, fourth one, this one is really simple and kind of seems like it's self-evident, but it's not always. You want a person with availability. So in life, in all of church world, ministry world, nonprofit world, what I've found is that 20% of the people do 80% of the work all the time in every situation. 20% do 80% of the work. So what that means is you're going to go through those first three qualities and you're going to find this person and you really want them and you're going to realize everybody wants them and they're already on 5 boards and they're serving 8 days a week. And you're like, oh my gosh, this person has no time. No, they don't. And what you'll often find is that these people have such a heart to serve and they love your vision. They love the mission that you're about. They're going to want to say yes, but it won't be good for your board. If they're overtaxed, if they really don't have availability, it's best to just say, why don't you wait till a season in your life where you do have more availability? Because what can actually happen, it can create demotivation for your whole board if they're never available. So if they're missing half the meetings, if they're always having to log in by Zoom and just never available in person, if it always seems like they're coming in late, leaving early, they can't get the emails, all for good reasons. They have such good intent, such good heart, but they just don't have time. I encourage you to actually say no and tell them to wait because it can demotivate everybody else who just feels like, this person's not taking this seriously. This is not what they really want to do. And it just brings down the energy in the room when you meet. It really does. I've seen this happen. So you want to have people that are available. And that may mean that you have somebody on your board who has been amazing, but now maybe they just had a baby or a job change or some big health issue, and really they're not going to be as available. Have them step off for a while. Give that gift to them. Hey, we love you and we want the best for you. Why don't you step off for now so that you can take care of what you need to take care of, and we'll invite you back when you're available again. So availability is important. It's good for the health of your overall team. Okay, so that's really the kind of people that you want on your board if you're in leadership, inviting them in. But it's also, if you're an individual, this is what you should be aspiring to in life. I encourage every person who is involved in charitable work to think about how might I grow to be the kind of person who could help lead this charitable work, whether through a church or a ministry or a charity, nonprofit, school, healthcare provider, whatever it is. How can I grow to be someone who can pass on what I've learned, help lead up the next generation, and really be a source of wisdom in this place? And if that's you, if you're thinking about how do I become a person who could lead, I'll tell you again, it's not about earning a ton of money. It's not about knowing the mayor. It's about growing as a man or woman of character, first and foremost, that deep, proven character, growing in wisdom, learning from life, learning from experience. It's about developing some expertise that can really help people in need in your community. And it's about finding time so that you can be consistently available and making that commitment to be there for your board, for your organization. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I really hope that you will avoid the trap of chasing the money and chasing the connections and look for these kind of men and women to lead your organization. You will not regret it if you'll find men and women of character, wisdom, experience, or expertise and availability. They'll go a long way to making your impact greater and maximizing the good that you do in this world, which is what this podcast is all about. So this has been Blake Talks Good. I'm your host, Blake Jennings. Until next time. If you have a question that you would like covered on Blake Talks Good, you can email it to blakej@onramptx.org. Again, that's BLAKEJ at ONRAMPTX.org. We'd love to have your questions, whether they're about individually doing good or working at a nonprofit or ministering in a church, wherever you might be. If you want to maximize the good that you do in your community and have a question, please send it to us.